love riding my bike. I love running. I don't care what they think about it. I love it.
At that point, when I knew I was going to win, chills just went up and down my entire body.
I don't believe there are any good or bad foods. Food is food.
I still feel so passionate about getting that record that I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
As an athlete, I was like, what's my story, or what's your story? What can you learn from it? And what can you teach people?
Welcome to the IronWomen podcast. I'm Haley Chura, and I'm joined by Alyssa Godesky. Alyssa, I feel like I am currently just a professional podcaster. All I do now is podcast. All I have done in the last week. Those are my only accomplishments. This is my third podcast recording in a week. And so I'm going to just call myself that. I don't feel like I professionally do anything else.
We both actually, I think Haley did a bonus podcast this past week because you were on the If We Were Riding podcast with our fellow feisty women. And I actually joined a flash episode of the Dark Zone podcast, which is an adventure racing podcast at 9 p.m. on Saturday night, because there was a adventure race taking place that had some big stakes in terms of in the adventure racing world. You could win entries to like the world championships, adventure racing world series championships next year, and then the US team could win a nationals entry. So big stakes, ended up being a super competitive race. And basically I'm friends with the guy that does the podcast, so I got to come on and talk about the dot watching that had happened through the day and what was upcoming. So it was fun, but it was a lot of podcasting this week. How did If We Were Riding go? I have to admit, it's still queued up in my queue of podcasts that I haven't listened to because I've been talking on them this past week.
Yeah, it was good to be on that show. I did it one day post-op after hand surgery, which I don't know if I would recommend to people, to anyone, to doing a podcast one day post-op. But I did go on there. And the other big event that was happening this past Saturday was men's Kona, the Ironman World Championship for men. So did you get to catch any of that before your podcasting? Because I'm figuring 9 p.m. Eastern time would have been like right after the pro men were finishing in Kona. Did you watch any of that race? I know this is a women's podcast, but there were actually some impressive women involved in that men's Kona.
So I would love to hear more about that from your perspective. I admit the most honestly I have really seen of the Kona coverage is like the memes from the Sam Laidlow memes. Actually, they're all about Sam Laidlow. So I guess I saw the results in the end, but I didn't really catch much of the coverage and watch too much of it. But I would love to hear more about how the women were playing a role on that day.
Yeah. Well, okay. First of all, going back to If We Were Riding, I will say we did do picks, and I'm pretty sure Jocelyn Wong Neal, she won. She actually was the only one of all four of us on that show who picked Patrick Lenga, who did win Ironman World Champion, third time winning, incredible run, just incredible race, incredible swim and bike too, that set him up for this incredible run where he looked so good. I mean,
three-time winner, but he hasn't won for 6 years.
Yeah. I mean,
it's so
cool. So German Patrick Lenga, I was a German sweep this year with Laura Philipp winning in Nice, Patrick Lenga winning in Kona. So very cool to see that. And then Magnus Ditlev, who was my pick for the win, he finished second. And then Rudy Von Berg, who was also one of Jocelyn's picks from the United States, who finished third on the podium there, and which also disqualified Sarah True's picks because she just picked all the Euros and she got it wrong. She picked 80% of the field and got it wrong. Oh my
gosh. So. I think that Jocelyn actually, my memory is so bad, but I believe in the past Jocelyn has made picks or sent picks in for women's races, and it has also done really well at that. So I think Jocelyn might have a future as a triathlon sports bettor. Basically.
Yeah, she came on our show once for 70.3 World's preview show, and came on IronWomen. And I think because she is actually quite astute about the pro field, even though I think she doesn't claim to be, but she definitely knows her thing. So congratulations to Jocelyn from IronWomen. I don't know if there's a prize for that, but I watched the entire race. I watched the body marking show. I watched
everything. Body marking to tape breaking.
I love it. I mean, I love the coverage. I thought it was so good. I knew some people who were racing, obviously. And I think there's a lot to be learned as an athlete and a coach from watching how these races play out. And I thought they did a very good job for the coverage. I think I'll go through the women who I think made this race. The first one would be the woman who led the lead paddleboarder was a woman.
Ooh,
And if
okay.
anyone knows who this is, I'd love to interview her. I need to like get some
I feel
connections
like we
in the
can
paddleboard.
find, yeah, we should be able to find that out somehow, I think. Okay.
It was just, I mean, she was doing so good. And I haven't done a ton of paddleboarding, but I've done a little bit and it's so hard. It's so hard. And so just like watching her keep that line in front of all those men, it's like this
Lot of stress, yeah.
man. And she just did this incredible job. And so I'm guessing she is an incredible paddleboarder. And so I would love to know who that is. And congratulations to her for leading that huge group of men through that swim. But they swam fast. They swam very fast. And the other women, I think on the broadcast, we had Miranda Carfrae, 3-time Ironman world champion, adding a lot of her perspective. Dee Dee Griesbauer, who has been on this show, a great commentator. They also had Danielle Fauteux, who is, of course, 5-time Ironman world champion, 5-time 70.3 world champion, and just recently retired. She came on and gave some perspective, and Chelsea Sodero, who was the 2022 Ironman world champion, and she got to give her perspective. So I thought that was really a great commentary team, and it made it really exciting. I think that they did a good job of sort of adding context to the race from their own experiences, and we got to watch, these men race, but I really, really appreciated their insight, and I thought it was very engaging. And I also was, just really impressed by some of the athletes who had very tough days. Sam Laidlow, who you mentioned, rode a 357.
That's not, I did see that. I did see that.
I mean,
yeah.
that was insane.
I go, Matt, Sam Laidlow rode a 357. He goes, oh, that must have been a lot of walking. I go, no. Rode a 357. And he was like, like, what? Yeah.
It was so incredible. It was so fast. And like, I just have been around the sport, I guess, long enough to remember when it was like a 4:30 was an incredible time for a man.
Yeah.
And now they go sub-4. And I do think, conditions obviously matter on that course, but it's, and you can see how the bikes have changed. You can see how the water bottle placement has changed. They talked a lot about nutrition changes, and specifically, they said Magnus Ditlev. I think they quoted him. I wrote it down somewhere, but taking in, it was like more than 700 calories an hour.
Wow.
Which is so many
That's
calories.
Insane. That's a lot of calories.
Oh my gosh. It's just like so impressive. But then of course, Christian Blumenfeld, who won in St. George in early 2022, won that Ironman world championship, and has won the 70.3 world championship. Like, he was vomiting, which they were blaming that maybe on his nutrition, on his bike position. I don't think they brought up, like, the only thing I thought of was also that that swim in Kona is very salty. And if you ingest like any salt water, you are probably going to be
stomach.
Vomiting. Yeah. Your body is going to want to get that out of you. So I think that might've been another thing. I'm sure everything will come up, but again, Sam did this incredible bike split, blew up on the run, which is just horrible to watch. Someone, struggling that much, and when they still have so far to go and still finish the race. Christian Blumenfeld blew up too and still finished the race. And these are men who have won this race. And I just thought that was actually impressive to watch. I also thought it was interesting. Lionel Sanders had a really rough race. And if you watched on social media, a lot of the Ironman posts, like, the fans they love Lionel, and a lot of the questions be like, why isn't there more Lionel? Why isn't there more Lionel? And I think that's really, really fascinating from like someone, if you're from a perspective of not quite in the sport as much as we are, that Lionel brings a lot of eyeballs to the sport through probably his YouTube. And it was too bad to see him not have the day that he had hoped for. And I think he had dedicated his season toward Kona, and then it didn't come together. So my heart goes out to him. And I heard everyone who started, because I think it takes so much courage to start. And I really, really enjoyed watching it play out. So
I'm excited to watch.
Thank you for giving me the entertainment. Yeah. Again, it's the IronWomen podcast, but sometimes even women are entertained by men.
Totally. I'm riding the trainer like 45 to 60 minutes at a time right now. So this will be a good 8 to 10 sessions for me to like catch up on that coverage, get to watch and see how it played out. I think I mentioned this before. I'm taking a gardening class. And so that's like my Saturdays now is like a large chunk of life is devoted to this gardening class. But magic of sports these days. I love that you can just pull it up.
What are you planting in like November?
So
Or
great
like October,
question.
November in Vermont?
Well, not too much, but you can for sure start like you can do like the bulbs, I guess, like bulbs that are like in the ground. But mostly she was like laughing because she's like, yeah, it's November. Most people are like done with gardening at this point. But she's like, you guys must be my planners. And I'm like, no, we're all actually the people that just know nothing about gardening and didn't realize like we were doing anything for a while. But so hopefully this will give us like our plans and designs to be able to like hit the ground running come spring and not have to start using those like first weeks to like take a class to get up to speed on things. So yeah, not a lot of doing right now. It's a lot of mapping and investigative work, basically.
Okay.
Very
Is there
different.
anything you're like very excited about for spring? I mean, I feel like, yeah, I need things to look forward to right now. So like, what are you mapping like what you're gonna do in the spring?
I am. And so I'm really excited because this is an ecological gardening class. And so basically it's a lot of information about like the importance of using native plants to your yard and your garden and how like just a lot of the practices of kind of what I grew up with, suburban gardening or traditional gardening really are like not super helpful to be helping keep native populations of like insects and other like, creatures booming, right? Like all those populations are declining pretty rapidly in places. So just trying to figure out ways to kind of help that ecosystem and the diversity there. And then if you are thinking about that as you're planting your gardens, you will hopefully end up with things like more birds around you, right? More butterflies. And like there's they also talk about like the studies that show having those things kind of surrounding you in your area are like boosts to mental health and things like that. So I'm kind of excited to approach it from kind of all of those angles and see. But I mean,
Is there a tip?
it
Is
depends on
there
if it
like
works.
a plant that we should all be thinking about?
So it depends a lot on your plate, but I would totally encourage anyone who's like planting something or wants to just like grow something, like when you go to you can go online. They're everywhere. There's like, I think I have pulled up here, Ladybird Johnson. It has a wildflower center and you can do a search there and like search for things that will be native to your area, right? Because I guess sometimes it's like, and again, people, if you have a lot of gardening knowledge, I'm very much oversimplifying it, but if you are planting non-native things around, sometimes they could be completely sterile, right? Like the things that get nectar and things from that, like, or the caterpillars that would normally eat leaves, like are so specific. Like I guess 90% of a lot of those things are species are specific to a native type of plant. So if you plant a non-native plant, a lot of times you're just like not helping continue the ecosystem. So I would just go to a website like this Wildflower Center and do a little search. And like it's so cool to see all of the options of things that are native, right? And like purposefully pick a native plant, right? To
Okay.
your area. I think that is a good thing to do. Just a little tip, but it's also kind of like a lazy person's gardening. Like one of my first questions is like, how can I do the least amount of work, right? The least amount of like lawn mowing and things like that. And I guess it's kind of after you water it and things kind of get going, in theory, you don't have to do too much to it. So if you are thinking about gardening, I highly recommend if you
Do you
have
have to
an
weed?
ecological garden. That was also a question. So there's something called ground layer. So it's like basically, as you would imagine, it's not too surprising. You look outside at the forest and there's layers, right? Like there's like the ground layer, then there's like a herbaceous layer, and then like a small tree layer, like shrubs, and then like your tall trees, right? So your ground layer is super important if you don't want to weed, because you can pick a good ground layer that will help you, I guess, not get weeds, not really need to weed. I don't know. Maybe they look like weeds, but you're supposed to leave them.
What are you
But
going for? Mulch or rocks?
so no, I think you just like plant. Well, first we have to get rid of the grass. You do kind of have to kill a lot of the grass, right? To like make a garden area. And so I think actually my goal before winter is going to be I don't know. I have two things I need to decide between. I need to decide between laying down cardboard to let that be like a layer with some mulch over top for the winter. And then like when we come in the spring, hopefully the grass is just dead. Or someone was like, you don't even have to spend time killing it all. You can just kind of like dig it up and then like pick sections each like year and then just like, slowly section by section, get rid of it that way, which I don't know. That does seem a lot easier than going through all the cardboard in my house, pulling off stickers and tape and then trying to find like a lot of cardboard to cover the lawn. So I think that's the route I'm doing, but I don't know. It's an interesting side project to be using my time with while I'm not training a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm
Which-
taking project ideas.
I know. I was gonna say, speaking of needing projects because we're not training too much, Haley, last week you had hand surgery. So I see a super cute new accessory that you're wearing. Can you give the listeners a little update about how you're doing, how the surgery went? Anything else you want to add there?
Yeah, so last week I was like fresh off a crash at T100 Las Vegas, and I was incredibly, incredibly lucky to get in to see a hand surgeon, Dr. Emily Compton here in Bozeman. Saw me really quick and did surgery last Tuesday. So we chatted on Monday. I had surgery on Tuesday. So I'm not quite 1 week post-op, but I am shocked. I'm shocked by how well things went. I did get a plate and several screws, like I don't know, like seven maybe screws in my finger, in my fourth metacarpal.
Tiny screws? They must be like tiny screws.
I'm guessing they're tiny. I don't. And then so the surgery was on Tuesday and I started PT on Friday,
Wow,
which is just
yeah.
fascinating to me. I did get a new splint. They let me pick neon. They let me pick the color of the Velcro straps. So I went with neon pink because that was the brightest color. And this is a removable splint, so I am able to take it off every couple hours and do my PT exercises. I have 2 exercises, basically like making a table with my fingers. I try to do that 5 times, and then I try to make a hook with my fingers, and I try to do that 5 times. I have yet to hit 5 times on either of those. But I think my hook, I was saying today, I was texting with one of my athletes and I was like, my hook is better than my table. My table is really weak right now. I'm still working on it. I am going back to PT tomorrow. So hopefully the therapist is impressed with my progress, I hope. So that's like the extent of my exercise at the moment, making hooks and tables with my fingers. But I mean, I'm very thankful that I'm basically a week into my recovery, and and she said everything went pretty well with this surgery. And when I woke up, I have never really had surgery like that before. Oh, this was the other thing, Alyssa. I know that I'm kind of outing you on this a little bit, but we both had recent experiences with an anesthesiologist who was like a friend of a friend. It's like awesome. But
yeah, please pretend you don't know me actually. Yeah.
The anesthesiologist like knew a ton of triathletes, like including pro triathletes. And I was like, yep, I know them. Yep, I know. And then I got a nerve block, which I don't know if you've ever had a nerve block in my arm, but
I got one in my leg before the second surgery. Yeah.
Yeah, did they do that? I mean, the nerve block hurt very, very bad. But then once your legs or your appendage is asleep, like it was the weirdest thing because they're like rolling you in, and I thought my arm was like resting on my chest. And then all of a sudden I see out the corner of my eye, my arm is like outstretched. And I was like, oh God, no, I can't look. But I was really worried about waking up and being very nauseous because I have quite bad motion sickness, but they took care of me really well. So good. I woke up feeling super happy and very incoherent. No one got video of it though, thank goodness. But
the people who get video of that, I'm like, how does that? That was like, I guess Matt would just have to show up with a video camera, right? And be taking it. So yeah, lucky he's not doing that.
I don't need that. I don't need it. But then it was pretty painful for that evening. Once the nerve block wore off, it was a lot of pain, but I'm doing a lot better now. And I'm just very, very thankful for everyone who's helped me in the last week. And then I am getting an MRI on my knee on Thursday. So, but my swelling is down. So that makes me hopeful. Like I'm having a little trouble with stairs. And so it'll just be good to find out what's happening there. But I'm still really, really hoping for the best, just because honestly, I can't do another surgery. That was horrible.
Yeah.
It
No,
was
it sounds like
horrible.
hopefully rest, some more continued rest will just nip whatever that is in the bud. But it's great to hear that the surgery went well. I think that before too long, hopefully your hooks and tables will be coming along, and you can keep telling us about the rehab process for sure.
Yeah, and in the meantime, the Montana State University pool here reopened for the first time in 5 years. So,
Of course
oh
it
my
did.
goodness. I
Yeah.
know, thank goodness. Well, I am going for a short little walk this afternoon with my friend Colleen, she's in her 70s and she checked out the pool today. So she's going to give me the tea
Okay.
on that pool situation. So things are coming back in Bozeman and maybe slightly on the upswing. But yeah, I mean, it's a little sad. I also did today, I thought I had already withdrawn from T100 Dubai,
Oh.
but apparently I hadn't, because there's like world triathlon rules. So you have to, like, to withdraw, you actually have to like email 3 different people. And I
Oh wow.
thought
Okay.
one was enough.
Yeah.
So actually that was it was a very hard morning. Because the start list came out and I was on it and I was like,
Oops.
oh, wait, what am I?
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, I felt so good because that was like, I mean, if you had told me a year ago that I would be invited to T100 Dubai, like the final, I wouldn't have believed it. And then I guess I had a really good start to the season in Miami and Singapore. And I think I started getting a little excited and then I got too excited and I broke myself. So I was really sad. I am really sad. Just because it felt like such a huge career opportunity to get to race in a race that big, and just the potential for year-end bonus and kind of a springboard into possibly 2025. And I feel like I've kind of ruined all that. So it's sad, but life will hopefully go long beyond now. And so,
I
you know,
definitely don't think that you have ruined any of that. I think that, I mean, obviously the commentary team is maybe not always the decision-making team at T100, but I think there is some overlap there. And, even watching those races, they're always super excited to have you out there. And like, I think what you have shown this year is like, being willing to step up to that kind of racing. I think you've proved yourself at that racing with your results. And I mean, I think quite honestly, they're used to injury being a part of sport, right? And I don't think this is going to take out away from opportunities for next year. If I know you, I think you will get yourself healthy and let them know that you're back healthy and ready for opportunities and what that might mean. And I know it's just hard. It's hard right now, I'm sure.
yeah, no, it is. Today's hard, and thanks for saying that. But we'll see. Hopefully, otherwise maybe they could add like a hook and table portion of the
Division
triathlon.
of it.
I'm like, oh, I've been practicing this part. But no, I think I'm excited to watch that race, and I'm excited someone else will get an opportunity to race. And and I am excited that the T100 series exists and will continue for next year. And I think it's going to be fun to see how it plays out in Dubai. So, I'm looking forward to that. And then also, not this weekend, but next weekend is NCAA
Oh yeah. Yep.
triathlon final. So there's still like quite, and then of course we have 70.3 Worlds. I mean, there's still so much racing left this year, which is fun. It's fun to have as a fan of the sport and casual spectator. It's fun to like have so many things happening.
Totally. And on the T100 front, Haley, we did get a mailbag come in about T100 that I will take this opportunity to ask you now. I thought this was a good question. So Jennifer wants to know if athletes pick the song that we are hearing when the athletes are introduced in the T100 broadcast, or is the DJ just randomly playing hype songs?
This is a good question because I was not sure they even actually played these songs, but the answer is yes, we did pick those songs. I think initially when you are, at least for me, like as a wild card, when I was initially preparing before Miami earlier this year, you fill out a questionnaire, and one of the questions on there is like walkout music. I don't think they've ever actually played my song. I don't think I've ever actually been one of the people that they like formally introduce. I don't know exactly like like a lot of those are, you know, I don't, it's the very, very fast people. And so, it's like, I think I've always kind of been like, they introduce us, but we kind of just run down and then they do like the last 10 people. But, so I didn't know, they actually played that in Las Vegas. I think because it was kind of a long run down to the pontoon area where we started. So I couldn't necessarily hear the music, or maybe but yeah, we do pick those. So I mean, I'm interested in what everyone's songs are.
I think I just wish that there really was like a DJ like mixing things like there, like with a table, as like when you would come out at an Aussie exit, the DJ's like hyping, you know,
Do you
like
want to know
just
what
like
my song is? Do you like that I wrote down that maybe has never been played?
can I guess?
Yeah, you should guess it.
Taylor Swift's Shake It Off.
Oh, that was close. Taylor Swift, Cruel Summer.
Oh, good. Okay. I mean, I had like 100 songs to pick from, but I narrowed it down from all of the songs in the history of the world to Taylor Swift at least.
And I mean, that's a very good guess. And I will say it's when you're picking walkout music, it's a little hard because you also realize that they're probably going to play like the first like 5 seconds of the song. And so
Yeah.
there's definitely certain songs that I'm like, oh, I would love this, like this section, but like
Yeah.
you are only gonna get
Can't
that.
be
So
that
I put some
choosy.
thought into that, and I'm like trying to be like, what are these like the first bars of a song that if it played, it would get me really fired up. But maybe that's the problem. They've never played my song.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I don't think that was the problem. But that was a very astute question. So thank you for that the listener. I can't remember who Jennifer, for writing in, for listening, for watching, and for caring.
And Haley, we have another mailbag question that just came in, and we are saying this one because you talked about it on the you gave them a scoop. You gave the If We Were Writing a scoop last week. And we haven't talked about it yet on IronWomen. Although you gave a lot of the information last week on IronWomen, I think, but Katie wrote in and wants to send a card to Jackie in Florida.
Yes.
What is her address? So can you give a brief little update on who Jackie is for people who might not have heard? And
I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad you remembered this. Jackie Yost was a guest on this show last year. And right around the St. Anthony's Triathlon, so last April, she is the 95-year-old triathlete that I got to interview in person at her house in Treasure Island, Florida, which is just outside of St. Petersburg, where St. Anthony's Triathlon is held. And I got to go swim with the Mad Dogs, which is the triathlon club there. And I mean, it was really special that Jackie and the Mad Dogs and her daughter Joy welcomed me into their home and let me do this interview. And so it was really cool because Jackie has just been around the sport for so long and is such a, cheerleader of the sport as well. And I just love her stories. But unfortunately, Hurricane Helene did damage her home. And it's one that like, it was just the coolest house, Alyssa. Like it was such a like time capsule for triathlon, like so much triathlon, especially like St. Anthony's memorabilia, because they had been a part of the race, either racing or volunteering for so many years. And so it's really sad to see the devastation of her home, of Joy's home, but everyone is safe. And I had asked Joy, like, how can we help? And Joy actually responded and said it would be really cool if people wrote letters to Jackie, and just letters from the triathlon community, just saying you're thinking of her. And I do have an address. I didn't necessarily want to put the address out on blast on a podcast, but if you want to write a card to Jackie, you can send us an email at ironwomenpodcast@gmail.com. Send me a DM. I'm at HaleyTra23 on Instagram, and we will get you her address. And I know that she would love some happy mail. So I sent her a card, and I'm really hoping that she gets quite a few. I mentioned this, like you said, I mentioned this on If We Were Writing last week, and I had actually quite a few people reach out. So I'm really excited that, she'll get some happy mail, and, and just let her know that she's an important part of this community, and we haven't forgotten her.
Oh, I love that. So you can write into the mailbag. I guess you could DM Haley too. I don't want to inundate you with too much, but yeah, you can definitely send an email with a question. And if you want the address as well, let us know and we will respond to you at with Jackie's address and ironwomenpodcast@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Haley.
And we have a cool interview this week, right?
Yeah, I was just about to tell you. So I talked to Danielle Fauteux this week, and Danielle is a second-year pro who comes to the job of professional triathlete by way of previous careers in architectural design and a pilot. She was a pilot. So she is a pilot. We talk about that, of course, as well
That's like
as
the natural progression for
I
all
know.
triathletes. No.
As well as her background in sport, what it was like taking her pro card and stepping up to the big leagues at 39 years young. We talked about her past season of racing, as well as changes that she just recently made for her upcoming season. And you can hear all of that in my chat with Danielle coming up next. Hi, Danielle. Welcome to the IronWomen podcast.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me.
So I want to just jump right in because I have actually a lot of questions for you. When I can't be an internet sleuth and like find people's whole life stories on the internet, it just means that I have kind of more questions that go along for you. And so I kind of, when I was looking at how this conversation would go, I guess I kind of have it in three buckets. So the first bucket we'll talk about is Danielle the person, then kind of Danielle the pre-pro athlete Danielle, pre-pro triathlete, and then pro triathlete Danielle. So that'll give you a snapshot of how I kind of, put all my questions into the buckets here. So to start out with Danielle the person, in your Instagram bio, you have that you're a triathlete, a pilot, and then an architectural designer. So I think these are like three very diverse and very different jobs, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, first question that comes to mind is obviously like pilot, like what kind of pilot,
Yeah. Yeah, so I am a private fixed wing pilot, so small aircraft, single engine. And sadly, I don't fly much anymore because of triathlon. So they're both very time consuming hobbies. But yeah, I owned my own plane and flew around. Like I live in BC, so it's very scenic, very beautiful, a really, really great place to be a pilot. So that was sort of my full-time hobby before triathlon. But sadly, I'm not current right now. I go up the odd time in a friend's plane just for a little scenic tour, but I don't fly pilot in command these days.
Okay, I do feel like if anything was going to complement the pro triathlete life, being a pilot would. So like if there was some way to somehow be able to get you to races by flying, I feel like that would be really, really easy. Like, have you been able to fly yourself to an event before, or are you really just kind of switch focuses once triathlon was in the main picture?
Yeah, so there was about a 3-year overlap where I was in the height of my flying and I had my own plane, and then I started like triathlon and I had bikes and I was training in different areas. I would throw the bikes in the plane and all my
that's awesome.
all my gear, just like take off and go mostly to Penticton. But I used the plane like even before triathlon for adventures and biking and mountain bikes and friends and camping. And so there definitely was some overlap there, but it just got to the point where flying is one of those things, like you have to keep doing it to keep your knowledge and your confidence and your so the more I was training, I was really getting a lot of fatigue and a lot of mental fatigue. It really didn't complement, to be honest. Like it was, there would be days I'd be in Penticton training all weekend and get up at like 5 a.m, fly home, get to the pool, but it was like a lot on the brain. So anyway, so triathlon took over.
Okay. No, that's really interesting. I didn't think about that point as much. And then what part would you say that's very similar? Like, would you say it's kind of the ability to like focus and, kind of have that drive to be really good at something? That's like the similarity between pursuing pilot license and pro triathlon? Or, can you think of any other parallels that you found? Like you said, they both kind of were hobbies, right? Now pro triathlon is you're competing professionally, but was there like a link between those hobbies that you felt?
I think it's the craving for like knowledge and like doing something, like it's like, oh, this is new, let's see how awesome it can be. And yeah, I tend to hyper focus. So when I was flying, it was like all about flying. It was like, nothing, like there wasn't a whole lot else going on in my life. And similar to now, it's like, as soon as triathlon, it kind of took over my life. Like it's kind of, I think sounds pretty common. Like, a lot of type A, very hyper focused individuals that are striving for, the best they can be, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if I look back on my life, there have been other things, more bigger things now as I get older, and you can afford to do things like this. But yeah.
Sure.
Anyways.
And then I guess my last question, sorry, I have a lot of questions about the pilot life. But I think I've talked to some people who have flown and kind of pursued that as a hobby, and I think they kind of get addicted in a sense to that view, right? Of like,
Oh yeah,
being in the sky, right? Quite literally. And so triathlon is very much on the ground, And so would you say, like, was it hard for you to kind of give that up, or is it just like a different kind of high, right? It's just, so to say, like that you would get from going fast, head down on your TT bike, flying through beautiful landscape?
yeah, it does hurt my heart a little bit that aviation has taken a back seat, but my plan is, and what sort of like gets me through it is, at some point my body is not going to be able to do the things that it's doing now. So now is the time for the physical endeavors, and then at some point I will want to lean more on my cognitive abilities, which is when I'll probably take up aviation again, because I definitely still have unfinished business in aviation, different planes, different types of flying and stuff like that. So it's not over, it's just on pause. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for sharing a bit about that. We'll move on to to stage 2 of Danielle as a person, which is you as an architectural designer. So is this what you would call kind of your day job? And can you talk a little bit about what you do within that sphere?
Sure, yeah. So in my 20s, I was just working at a cabinet shop and didn't was just answering phones, and then kind of saw a bunch of like plans come in, and I was like, this is really cool. I went back to school to do the architecture stuff. And that's really been my only real job since, my 20s. And like have my own business and consulting, and yeah, I did that for quite a long time, but I sort of transitioned into teaching in the program that I took. So I teach the architecture and engineering department at the university here. So that actually is what I do on the side of triathlon. Like I don't do much of my own designs anymore, and that's kind of in the last few years. So I split my time. I do, if someone asks me for some house plans, I could certainly whip them up. But I'm not actively pursuing my business, but just teaching part-time and triathloning as much as I can.
Cool. Okay. So let's jump then into kind of, I guess, the road before you as a pro triathlete. So in your Ironman series bio, right? It gave this away that you were a national team soccer player, a track and field sprinter. So clearly it sounds like you had an athletic background. Would you say that like soccer was your main sport kind of growing up, or
Yeah.
what kind of experience had you had with swimming growing up?
Oh, none, regretfully. Yeah, soccer was definitely my main sport. And it's funny because like I was just one of those hyperactive kids, not in a bad way, just like I just needed to burn energy. Like I loved running around. I was like a kid that just played in the yard all the time. And it was just, I think, the cheapest sport that my parents could find to put me in. So, and it stuck, like, as everything progressed, like, you get to your rep team and you get your provincial team. And then, I was on 16 years old. I moved out of my own home as a kid down to Vancouver, which is like 4 hours away, lived with the billet family to play for the national team, and was doing camps and things, and like on the roster to go to the World Cup in 2002, but I got injured and didn't go. And then
Wow.
went down to university in Tulsa to play out a varsity scholarship. And so I kind of everything competitively and like semi-professionally, like for the not, it's not really professional in that era. Like we didn't really have pro women's soccer, but the highest caliber was, like I was a kid, so it was a very long time ago. But sort of in conjunction with that, like as a youth, like a young athlete, I did cross country and track. Like I was formally trained in track and field all the way up to like
Okay.
early adulthood. So that I think I just had like a lot of foundation at a young age, and then kind of just like 22 years old, sort of let things go a bit, just too much too soon in life. And yeah, then pursued my career and dabbled and, just kind of ran and did general health and fitness things, but didn't really do anything competitive until the young age of 36 when I decided to sign up for an Ironman. It was a big
Well,
gap.
I will have this little tidbit spoiler, because one of the things I did find about you on the internet was that you did actually return to play at university in your 5th year, right? So you were
Yeah.
at Tulsa, and then it seems like you returned to university back in Canada. Would that be right? And
Yeah,
then I found this news interview that
that's funny.
is priceless, right? I
Yeah.
guess I want to say it's from 2008 maybe. And so
Yeah.
is that yeah, okay. And
Yeah.
so it talks to you. I think you were 31 in the interview. And so maybe no, so that wouldn't add up, right? It had to be a little later than 2008. But anyway, the man interviewing you is like shocked that this 31-year-old woman wants to like play university
Yeah.
soccer. And can you talk a little bit about like returning to, sport at that time? And like, did you feel like you had unfinished business in soccer, right? That, having an injury and, potentially having World Cup dreams at one point sounds like something that could be really like it could stay in your brain, right? If it's unrequited.
Yeah. Yeah, so that year was sort of funny. Like I had scholarship in the States. I didn't play out my entire eligibility. So in the
Okay.
States, you have 5 years to play for, which effectively caps your age. In Canada, you have 5 years. They don't cap like how long you have to complete that. And so I did 2 years in the States, 2 years in Canada at a young age. And then I went back and did some schooling, late 20s, and my graduating year was that year when I was 31. And it was so funny how it happened, because I was on a boat with my partner and their kids were going to university playing soccer, and they were like, you should come play. I was like, maybe had like a couple beers in me, and I was like, I'll come play, like not fit at all. Tryouts were in 2 days. And I was like, well, so I called the coach and I'm like, oh my God, like I don't even have soccer cleats. Like I haven't touched a soccer ball in like 7 or 8 years. This is like, so I called the coach. I was like, Tom, I'm thinking about coming like to play for my 5th year. And he's like, oh my God, Danielle, like, just come, just show up. And then I call him back. I'm like, I'm 31, right? I haven't played in like 7 years. I'm like, you can't cut me. Like, you can't cut me. This would be so embarrassing. Anyways, yes, I went back and played at 31. It was the most fun I've ever had playing soccer. It hurt because I was not in shape, but it still led the team in scoring and, showed those little
That's
youngsters
huge.
what it's all
Yeah.
about. It was
Do you
so fun.
think that you would have called, like when you played at a younger age, maybe like a proper college age, I guess that people would think
Yeah.
of, is like, do you think you would have called those seasons fun, right? Like it seems like a stark contrast for you to be like, it was just the most fun ever, right? Do you think that that changed your perspective of sport, right? Having been so
Yeah.
competitive and probably hyper focused when you were 16 even, right?
Yeah, I like to sort of, because yeah, people ask me stuff about my history in sport, and I just sort of like to say like I just didn't have the maturity at that age, because I had the ability to be like at that level. Like Christine Sinclair, I'm sure you know who she's, our like Canadian like
Mhm.
icon for soccer. She's my age. We grew up training, like played with her provincial team. She stayed at my house. Like we're buddies, partners, forwards together. And I admire her like maturity to handle that sort of at that age and to develop it. And like she just retired. Like she went through all those years, and
Mhm.
I just didn't have it. I fell apart. I just got really emotional being away from home, and I didn't enjoy it. Like I enjoy
Mhm.
sport now so much more. Like I'm living my dream right now.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I want to talk all about that. So, how did kind of triathlon, I guess, come into the picture for you?
Well, I went through a breakup and
Mhm.
like wanted something exciting and new to do, you know, as we do, like a new adventure and
Yeah.
new friends and went for some jogs with some buddies and they're like all talking about Kona and I was like, this sounds amazing. So click of a few buttons later and I'm signed up for an Ironman and I have no idea what I'm doing. This was actually 2019, late 2019, so just before COVID.
Okay.
And so yeah,
And
I
so
signed up for
Ironman was your first triathlon entry?
yeah,
Full Ironman. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. Yes.
Um, and then yeah, so people were like, maybe you should try doing like Oliver as a local race. So yeah, there eventually in the plans there was a 70.3 to sort of warm me up like in practice, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously like so yeah, I signed up, met a coach who was like husband of one of the women that I was running with, and he had a little crew going and I bought a couple bikes off of one of his old athletes that fit me, like a $1,200 Cervelo P2 that I'd never ridden like a tri bike before. Um, yeah, and got me started. But then, obviously COVID hit, but I was a bit naive and just thought it would last like a month, right? Like I had no,
Mm-hmm.
so I just kept training. Like COVID to me was a blessing because all I did was train. Like there's going to be a race at some point, and then yeah, I actually was lucky enough. The end of 2020, one of the first world events that happened was Ironman Cozumel. There were a few little ones
Mm-hmm.
before that, but I rolled the dice and went there because I thought, who's gonna run a global event in a pandemic? Probably Mexico. So I went down there and raced and qualified for Kona. And basically that was like I was stuck, right? It's like I gotta go to Kona,
Mm-hmm.
so I gotta keep
Yeah.
racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did find a little bit, I think this is somewhere in your Instagram, kind of about those early times where it was 3 years of you racing as an amateur. I think it said you did 8 races and you decided to take your pro card then.
Yeah.
And you talk about your first age group win at Oregon 70.3 and say that that's kind of when the conversation for you started about going pro. You know, would you, I guess I'm almost surprised, right? That someone who came from like a high caliber sport prior to that, right? Like was waiting until they won necessarily to really think about going pro, right? And so can you kind of talk a little bit about that benchmark? Was it like a self-made benchmark or was it just these surprises kept happening and suddenly you were like, "Oh, I guess I am pretty good at this."
Yeah, like when I started, I remember looking at some results for Ironman Santa Rosa because that was supposed to be my first. And a friend, we're over the kitchen island looking at results and Kona slots and what I'd have to do to get one. And I just remember thinking like, oh man, I'll never make it to Kona if there's only one, I have to win a race. How am I going to win a race? Like I had no idea like where I'd fit in the whole sport. And
Mhm.
then I really had like a really tough 3 years. Like I had like my first Ironman in Cozumel, riding along the side of the island where all the wildlife is, and a bird flew in my wheel and like I crashed. Like and so I've had all these weird things in every race. Like, I'm not an excuse maker, but man, I didn't really actually start to have any kind of success until my third year, and it was really starting to get to me. So I just wanted a good race. Like wasn't thinking past that at all. But then in
Mhm.
Oregon, yeah, I won the overall amateur. I had no idea. I was just having an awesome day. And then friends told me, talked to my coach after. I was like, oh man. And then at a dinner party or dinner thing after, people were like, you would have made money today. Like, why don't you turn pro? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I guess so. We'll see. I don't know. I gotta like wanted to do a good full Ironman first because I was like a half, like
Mhm.
okay, like let's get the full like dialed in first. And then yeah, I had a really good race in Arizona following that. just knocked it out of the park. Like absolutely just had the day like that I wanted for 3 years. And then I was like, pro card. Yeah. I didn't tell anyone either. I was kind of
Let's do
shy.
this. Yeah.
I was just like at home doing it at Christmas, like, guess what? Yeah.
And you also talked about that time, and you make reference to your teammates, and you kind of say who were in the trenches with you, and your coach. And I don't know if this is the same coach you still have or different, but can you talk about at that time, who was the community that kind of helped develop you as a triathlete?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was fresh off of like a pretty big significant breakup. And so this new group that I met, when COVID hit, all we did was ride bikes together. Like so I had an awesome crew. Like I had my coach and his group of athletes that we were still running together. So I'd have our group Wednesday night runs, we'd have pool sessions together. Like we were lucky enough to have that during COVID, like we could rent lanes and still swim and ride bikes with my
And this is
girlfriend.
in Kamloops, where is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
I'm like, or am I Americanizing it by saying Kamloops? Okay.
No, that's perfect. It's a goofy name. We're just north of Penticton, like where Ironman Canada was. Yeah. Yeah. So Kamloops. Yeah. So we just, I felt like I had all sorts of help. Like everyone was like, because I was the newbie and everyone in my group had been to Kona and they're giving me all their advice and, spare kit and jerseys and things and helping me out to get started. So it was really like the village stepped up, I tell you. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And so there you are, I guess 38, 39, making this decision to jump into the pro ranks. But I have a feeling that like, did you think back to your time playing soccer at all during that, where like age was just, it wasn't even did it cross your mind at all? Are you just, were you worried about that factor, or were you just like, what? I'm at this point, I'm ready.
Yeah, I don't think I really worried about my age in terms of like how I would fit in. I think like I was pretty confident on my trajectory that, in the like if Arizona, my first full was an indication as to like a starting point, I felt pretty confident that I belonged. So age wasn't really a factor. I do like think about, if I had started a little earlier, this, maybe I'd have a bit more time in the sport, but I certainly don't feel my age. Can't deny biology to some extent, but I do think I have a lot more years in me than I maybe originally thought. I'm not putting a time cap on it, I guess, but yeah, my performance curve is solid and just gonna run it out until see how far I can take it and till it's not fun anymore, right? Like as long as it's fun, I'll keep doing it.
And we obviously see that the youngsters are coming into triathlon now at their peak physical, age, kind of the age I think we all wish we had gotten started at. But there's a lot of talent in the pool of 30 somethings of women, right, who maybe think that they are past their prime. What would you say to someone, who's in those steps, right, in those shoes, like looking at it and kind of in the back of their mind considering it, but fearful? What would you tell them?
Like a 30-year-old, I would say go look at the average age of a professional women's start list and the full distance. Go look at the average age. Like Anne Haug, she's older than me.
Yeah.
So it's very true.
Yeah.
We have like a secret masters division of the 40-plus-year-old pro division. Like, yeah, I think it's a mature athlete sport for sure. And I don't know. I say go for it. Like 30 is so young.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, we make good fun of Haley in the T100 races. She's constantly being called out for being the oldest one in the field sometimes, although Annie Haug raced with her last week, so she took that title, I think. But it is funny how I think and like you said, you're just discovering that maybe that end point that you thought was kind of near, maybe it actually isn't, right? We're watching people like Dee Griesbauer do great things in the sport well, past that 40, 45-year-old mark. So
And
I
Mel
love that. I
McQuaid,
think that, yes.
Mel is my hero. Like it took me until this year to actually beat her. I'm like, she's been like, she's definitely someone that I look up to on, yeah, like I cheer for her because the more success she has, the more I believe that success will still keep coming, like as, like 45, 46, 40, so I think that's awesome.
Yep. And are
Yeah.
you still working with the same coach that you had as you kind of turned pro? Are you self-coach now? Are you working with someone else?
Yeah, so actually good timing on that question because I've been working with the same coach since, and we laugh about it every year because I just, went up, had coffee with this guy, hey, I want to try an Ironman. And like he's never had an athlete turn pro, and we're both just like, are we doing this? Like, is this anyways? So we've had a great run, like 5 years, almost 5 years. But we did just part ways about a month after Chattanooga. And it wasn't a total surprise. We spoke last Christmas about me possibly needing to change, evolve my program and stuff like that. So I have officially, it is public, I just haven't like put it on social media, but I'm working with David Tilbury Davis now.
Nice. Okay, great.
I just made the
So
switch.
that
So
will
I'm in week 2. I'm on like day 10 of his program. So it's very fresh.
the honeymoon phase, right? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, okay, so moving into segment 3 for our chat here, Danielle, as the pro triathlete, in your first pro season, you raced 5 Ironman events, 4 Ironman 70.3s. You had 7 top 10 results, including a 4th place at Ironman Maryland. This past season, you had a 4th place at Ironman Canada, a 5th place at Ironman Chattanooga. So, when you are approaching your seasons at this point in your pro career, how are you looking at things? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, so our schedule just came out like a week ago for like the pro series came out about a month ago, like for our races. And then the rest of our schedule just sort of came out. And so I am like putting a lot of thought into how I want to approach this season, which I actually ended my season and switched coaches like now because I wanted to be very well prepared for anything that could come up next year. Because last year I did Ironman Cozumel. I went wire to wire like March until end of November. And so starting early just wasn't an option. So I haven't fully decided on what I want to do next year. I think I'm really interested in David's opinion on this. Like once he sort of gets an idea of like my caliber and like where I would fit in, because the pro series is very interesting. But it's like a business decision, right? You have to sort of balance like, what are you getting out of your schedule, in terms of like, prize money and accolades. Like you sort of have to build things up. Like maybe I should do more B races again this year, get on the podium, like sort of aim for that kind of stuff to make money, and then sort of build into something like the pro series like next year. Like I don't know. There's a lot of options, which is really nice. Like there's a race for everyone kind of now. So I don't know. It's exciting. I actually love the planning part of it. I love like thinking, oh, and then obviously it's like, you want to go to South Africa? Yeah. Like there's so many cool things you can do.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, are you looking at it more from that like business perspective or more of like,
Yeah.
this is my chance in life to travel to X place, right? Like, I guess how do you weigh each of those aspects of it?
Yeah, I think first and foremost it is a business because I want to be in this as long as possible. Like so to be sustainable, you have to have a little bit of return on investment. And I think the bonus is that most of the races are in pretty awesome places. So and I think maybe when I'm like on my way out, I'll hit some bucket list places, like like South Africa looks amazing. And, just those places where maybe you wouldn't go to otherwise. But yeah, I think definitely making some choices from a smart athlete business perspective would be a good strategy.
And you talked a little bit about when you were making the decision to go pro, you felt pretty comfortable that you'd fit in, right, as a pro, right, in that sense. And so I'm curious, maybe two-part question. At racing as a pro, has there been anything surprising to you, like kind of outside of the race itself, right, of the pro experience, we could say? And then talking specifically like race dynamics and race specifics, has there been surprises about pro versus age group experience in that sense?
Surprises?
Or unexpected things, or like good things maybe about being a pro, I don't know, any of that.
Yeah, I do. Like sometimes I forget that I am a pro, and to me it's like I'm just like, you know, it's really lovely when you go places and people like admire you, and like you walk into the pro bike rack area and people are like taking pictures and stuff, and like that, like it's just like a funny thing. It feels really nice, and there's just people that are in awe, and like people cheering for you on course. Like I can't shut up on course. Usually it's because I've had too much caffeine, so I cheer for people. But like when people cheer for me, like, and oh, your pros are so amazing, and like it just like, I don't know. I think the love that I get from people is a bit surprising, because I'm kind of like a nobody, but they still like, they see your bike number when you're like going to bike check and you've got like a low number. People know it's like, I don't know. Or you just chatting up people and they find out you're pro. They're just like, whoa, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of nice, but it's kind of, I forget about that part of it sometimes.
Yeah. And then what about the race specifically? Was there any sort of, you mentioned your coach prior hadn't coached someone who raced pro before. So that can be a difficult transition, because there are kind of some different things about pro racing that you kind of have to learn, right? And some you learn just by doing, but some maybe you have a heads up on. So had you talked to like anyone in the triathlon community as a pro before your first few races to get a feel for that, or was it trial by fire? What was surprising there?
A little bit of trial by fire, but I felt like I did have like, so one of my race buddies that I been to a bunch of races before turning pro is Jen Annette, and she was in Cozumel with me when I was an amateur. We actually stayed together, and so I feel like I got to ask some questions, so it wasn't like totally, like I wasn't going in totally blind, but I actually felt like it was a really natural transition. Like I really like that we get our own meeting, like our pro meetings, and some are better than others. Some like, but we do get like, we sit down with the swim, bike, run, like all the people, the head ref, the race director, like we get instructions on everything and we get to ask whatever questions we want. Like, and so I feel like that like is really, really helpful, like, especially in the early stages, to kind of know where you need to be and like how the start's going to go. And, I don't know. So I didn't feel like it was that awkward. And I felt from day one, I've sort of felt at home in that group of people. Never really, I mean, yeah, it's a little more intimidating when there's more top people there, because you're kind of like, well, but I think having that background of like competitive sports, I never really felt like I shouldn't be there. Just walking into the room with the meeting, like, hey, Lionel or whoever else is there, like, I don't know, just sort of felt at home.
Yeah, and I would think playing high level soccer just at a young age, right, kind of gave you a comfort of owning your place on a soccer field or kind of in your sport, right? However that might
Yeah.
go. You talk a little bit about maturity and kind of saying, maybe at that time you didn't have a lot, but like you were able to take what you did have in those moments, right? And now coupled with the maturity that you clearly have, I think I think it will pay off in big ways in this sport.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I hope so.
And so, Danielle, you share on social media often with videos and race recaps and kind of things like that. What can people expect? You know, what's the best way when they're following you on social media? How can they follow you? Is Instagram the best way? You know, where do we want to direct people to follow your season as you start planning for next season and get out there racing again?
Yeah, I think Instagram, I do cross post because I had like Instagram is a lot of triathlon people. Facebook is like, you know, my mom and her friends and like community people, like more Kamloops people that aren't necessarily triathlon people. So yeah, Instagram, and I do try and I don't know, social media is a funny one for me. I enjoy posting. I don't know how to do it very well. I try and just be myself because I feel like I have like I'm always trying to crack jokes and be funny, but I'm not really sure how it comes off. And I don't know how often to post, so I don't know if people are liking what I'm putting out there, definitely let me know. I got a lot of good feedback on the video race recaps. I think people sort of like that instead of just the type, like, you know, the big long text types. It's like, you know, first thing, right, like after the race, I get on there and just like spew it right from the heart. So, yeah, I don't know if people enjoy that, but I'll just try and keep people updated and try and keep it fun.
Awesome. We will definitely be linking to your Instagram in the show notes. And so it sounds like at this point you don't have you're just kind of recalibrating with David and haven't quite planned out where we will see you first in 2025. Is that correct?
That is correct, but
Okay.
I am still racing once more this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tell
it's not
us.
cool. I know. So I'm doing Indian Wells because it's California and it's December and it's like already like it was 32 degrees, 0 degrees, so like almost freezing here today. So yeah, that was just sort of I'm just gonna go down for a few weeks, do a little race and yeah, hang out in California, get some riding in maybe. So no big expectations for that race, but I will be doing Indian Wells just for like a little training camp sort of thing.
Awesome. I'm sure we will have a lot of listeners there. And I can say one thing about the IronWomen community is they are the best at kind of finding you out on course, finding you at events and giving you extra cheers. So we'll
That's
see if we
awesome.
can make that happen. But thanks so much for taking time, sharing a bit of your story. It's super interesting. I know I'm excited to follow your progress and cheer for you in the next few seasons.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much to Danielle for making time and coming on the show. And Haley, I just loved the part of her story about her at 31 going back to university and getting a year of eligibility to play on the women's soccer team. I just thought that was inspiring and like, yeah, it made me just start thinking about my own life. Like,
Yeah, wait,
how can I get back to do this?
Do you have collegiate eligibility remaining?
I mean, I assume I do. Is there a statute of limitations? If I go to grad school at Dartmouth, do I get to play if I
think you
try out and
could.
make the team?
Yeah, I don't think there's I don't think there's a statute. I don't think there's like an age limit.
I mean, that would be so, I would love to.
What
I really would.
sport? What sport are you gonna do?
That's a good question now. I mean, in a dream world where like, you know, taking out the fact that like I don't have the skills to do it, I would love to play something like college tennis, right? Like, because I played high school tennis, but I wish like I had pursued it at a higher level. I really enjoy playing tennis. But I probably Ironman.
What if I mean, NCAA triathlon, what if Dartmouth got a team? That'd
Yeah,
be
and they
pretty
do have a
cool.
really vibrant club team. So maybe if that gets pushed along, I'm gonna have to start looking for my classes I want to take, I guess. I mean, I just think it would be really fun. I think it would be fun if I had the ability to go back and play soccer. I mean, that would be like dream come true, right? But there's just no way. My fear factor now, I've like lost that, which, you know, I'm assuming at 31 is a little bit different than 39. Like maybe in these last 8 years I've like let my brain become more fearful, which is actually a thing. I know the feisty menopause podcast has talked about this at some point, where like as your hormones change as you age, you actually legitimately become more fearful, and that's like something that happens biologically,
Does that
physiologically,
happen to
or
men
not
too?
biologically.
Because I feel like older men are also more fearful.
Well, maybe, I don't know. Also,
That's
maybe
on
life
the, that's on
experience,
my
just,
Iron Man
what can happen.
podcast.
Yeah.
But
Maybe I just get more fearful of women in Kona and like try to keep them out. But anyway, I thought that was a really fun tidbit. So you've used all of yours?
I
mean, I'm
have used,
assuming
I used all 4 years
it would be
in
so fun if we could
swimming.
get you to go back and swim, and like this could be like, it could be like the comeback you never
I
even
need-
thought of with this
I
with
need-
your hand.
I want to do, I want to do like wetsuit swimming. I'll make a new sport. But no, I mean, I think my days are done, but it's a fun thought. It's a fun thought. Or maybe I could be the coach. I'll be the NCAA coach and I'll recruit you.
I think I would have to talk to the coach ahead of time and be like, please don't cut me no matter what. I'll be like the, mature, like team guardian
Captain.
role, but like I never even need to be on the field, right? But just to hang out with that kind of energy, it's gotta be so fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
But cool that Danielle did that. Very, very admirable. And we're lucky to have her in the sport. Now that, she came over to, well, I don't want to say the dark side because that was
No,
your
bright
obstacle
side.
racing.
Oh, yeah.
This is triathlon. That was the other podcast. This is the light side. So
Yes,
the
yes.
bright side. Anyway, Alyssa, it's great chatting with you. Good luck planting those bulbs and planning for the spring. And I will chat with you next week.
Bye, Haley.
You've been listening to the IronWomen podcast hosted by Haley Chura and Alyssa Godesky.
IronWomen is a production of Feisty Media and is edited by Lydia Russell and produced by Ella Natition.
Head to livefeisty.com to find more podcasts, stories, and fresh perspectives.
Thanks for listening.